All right. Happy Monday. I hope you enjoyed a little jams and thanks for joining us. I know you all are getting ready for finals next week. So appreciate you taking an hour out of your day to gather together with us. So good to see you all. If you want to go ahead, some of you started answering, but if you want to answer in the chat, what university you're from, how you got connected with ENP, and then a favorite moment of the year. And I saw Michaela's sweet answer that a student said, good job. She said, good job today. Thanks for hanging out with me. And he said, you did a good job too. I love that. That's super sweet. So go ahead. And also, if any of you would like to unmute yourselves and say and answer those for everyone, feel free as well. And again, I'm Janessa with ENP. I think you all know me, but just saying hello.
I'll go ahead and go just because mine is kind of lengthy. My name is Ashley. I'm from Fresno State. And I got connected through Miss Langford, one of my Fresno State sis, yeah. Through one of my professors, Professor Langford. And then one of my favorite things has been whenever one of my students, we were laughing and he started telling me something and I said, wow, I've never known that. You taught me something. And then he said, what? But you're the teacher. And I said, yeah, but we learned from each other. And he thought it was the most hilarious thing that he taught me something. So that's like one of my favorite memories.
Yeah, that's super sweet. And it's good for kids to know they have a lot of knowledge that we don't have, so they can teach us things. Definitely.
Yeah, it's after that, it's been a constant reminder. Like I do tend to remind him, like, look, like we're learning together. You're teaching me, I'm teaching you. And I think it validates, like, oh, I do have things to say and like I think things that are different the way that you think. So it's interesting to see like how that bloomed into like now he's noticing it. It's cool.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Anyone else want to share a quick story or quick funny line that a kid shared this semester?
I'll go ahead and share kind of my favorite moment through ENP. So I attend Fresno State. My name's Leslie. I got connected with ENP through another class, Risk and Resilience, and I was doing Saturday sports. But my favorite moment for sure would have to be when I was dropping off the literacy mentor bags for my student. And I remember her just opening the door. Oh, Miss Leslie, and you could tell she felt so special to be receiving the bag, and we took some pictures and it was just so special to me. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. She's like, you're a real person too. You're not just
Yeah.
a head. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Leslie. Awesome. Well, I know there's lots more good stories out there. So I'll give one more moment if anyone else wants to pop in or anything else to share in the chat too. Feel free, definitely type that info in the chat. Oh, just saw Camilla's. He said, that's too long to wait. 2 days is too long. So sweet. Awesome. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get going. So today, first we're gonna hear, I invited my colleague, Herman Quironez, our Neighborhood Development Director. So most of you are connected through the literacy department, whether with Read Fresno or with literacy mentoring. But I wanted to give you a chance to hear about other work that ENP does, mostly with residents in the community. So just for you to be able to hear what the good work that Herman and his team are doing, and to learn more about it. And then we'll do a little quiz about how well do you know ENP after this semester? Did you learn something? And then we're going to share some job openings. So both with Read Fresno is hiring for next semester, and we are hiring someone through AmeriCorps for next year as well. And so today's the first day we're sharing both of those jobs. So you all have like the first chance at hearing everything. So, and I love so I wanted to share those with you. And then also some other volunteer opportunities coming up this month, and then just some general announcements. But we're not a ton of us, so feel free at any point, if you have questions for me or Herman, you can unmute yourself or put it in the chat, and we'll definitely want to answer all your questions. All right, here
Yeah.
he is, the man of the hour.
Oh, awesome. Hey, thanks for sharing on the chat box question about how you've been connected with ENP. I love hearing those stories, how our tentacles, right? Of the starfish analogy. We have many entries, right, to the community. And I love how some of y'all are connected, heard about ENP through Saturday sports program and leadership mentoring on campus or in the community. And I see the message and you file. I
Oh,
love it.
you do see messages. Oh no, I've never figured that out. All right.
You're okay. You're cool. You're cool. Yeah. So I'll want to respect everyone's time. So I'll share a little bit through about neighborhood development, a little bit about myself, and some next steps as well. So yeah, hey, a little bit about me, and some of you have probably already seen me or heard me through different maybe re-Fresno classes. So it might be redundant, and I apologize if not. This is the first time. Hey, my name is Hedman. Grew up here in Southeast Fresno. I've really dedicated my life, the last 20 years or so, to really live out my values of what community development looks like, and that's taking different shapes and form, different ventures, different opportunities, different jobs. But I think I feel a sense of ownership of my particular work, and I'm super devoted to it, and sometimes to a default, right? I really bleed a lot of my neighborhood work into my personal life. It's just who I am. So hey, this is a little bit about me. That just believe that I'm super committed to ENP and our work, and I really love how folks like yourselves can jump in at different spaces, at different times of your journey, to get plugged in, because it's a really collaborative work that we do. Without you guys, without students, without residents, without our partners, none of this work would happen. So we definitely appreciate that. Next slide. Yeah, so for today, I really want to just anchor ourselves on what is neighborhood development. I'll share a little bit about our department buckets and our methodology, right? Like I get asked a lot of questions. So what do you do exactly? And that's always kind of hard to answer those, because we do various things, right? And to be honest, we're really on the cutting edge. A lot of stuff that organizations are doing in Fresno with residents and community development. So I'll share a little bit about the why and the how a little bit, and then pre and post. So I think it's good to give you a snapshot, like, hey, this is who we are as a department, and I'll give you a snapshot of some work that we have done before COVID, and our response in COVID, right? And so you can kind of see how, as an organization, how we pivoted and how we shifted and adapted, like all of us have adapted, right, to COVID. And so as an organization, what does that look like for us and for my department? What were some learning lessons and the impact we're making now? So next slide. So neighborhood development, and this is a wonderful picture of one of our cohorts a few years back. It feels so long. So these are some wonderful moms, some ladies in our community who graduated with high honors. We one of the first to do a resident cohort academy. So all these wonderful people here have gone through an extensive training program for about 12 weeks or so, 2-hour classes. They receive free tuition, scholarships, and they're really leaders of their community. And it's funny, I see this all the time. It's funny because our department, our 2 leader heads for our particular department, neighborhood development, are 2 guys. But really the power lies within the women of our community. The women are the champions for change. I'm still trying to figure out why the men are not involved as much. But it's okay. The women are really taking a heavy load, a burden, to really advocate for some changes in our community. So I definitely want to celebrate and honor the women, especially Mother's Day is coming up too as well. So this is a special picture that really demonstrates how ENP has been creative and inclusive in our approaches to engage community. So basically, neighborhood development, it creates place-based strategies to lead to self-sustaining ability, empowerment, and leadership development. And let me just stop there, because self-sustaining, this is where we kind of anchor ourselves, right? We really want to duplicate ourselves. And this is a great example here in this space. Janessa is connecting with y'all to build her capacity so that whatever we're doing on classrooms, in classrooms or in Zoom now, is to build sustainability, right? Is it sustainable where we can create these funnels of volunteers, leaders to be empowered to help others, right, in the community, versus if we were to do this as a staff only, we would not be able to make a large impact, right? As if we are a little more spread out abroad, have a broad base of connectors and folks to help build sustainability changes, right? So yeah, so and we anchor on this particular model right here, and this is kind of our slogan: discovering what people care about is the most is the key to making our neighborhoods a healthier and better place to live. Again, this is where our framework lies right here: discovering what people care about, rather than a top-down approach. And then I'll probably get into a little bit in our methodology, but discovering what people are passionate about, what they want to care about, are more likely to seek the change, right? Versus us forcing them an agenda upon them. Our team, our wonderful team, and I can't do this without them. Daniel Dominguez is doing a phenomenal job in Southwest Fresno. He's our Southwest project manager, coordinator, and he's doing some wonderful things. You've probably had met him in the past too as well, maybe at some of the school sites in Kirk. Think about Kirk, Keene, Columbia, in that region of Southwest Fresno. Daniel Dominguez is wonderful. Angie Quironez is one of our new staff members. We're kind of more in an assistant role right now. She's really supporting and filling the gaps where me and Daniel are really or don't have the capacity to do some stuff. But this is pretty much our team right here. Three folks on the development team, and I can't forget about Jason Spencer. He's one of our employees of the month every month. I don't know how that happens, but he's wonderful. You probably met him too at Columbia. He's very active at Columbia, literacy mentoring, different programs there as well. So I'm sure you get the chance to meet him. You'll love Jason's spirit. Good guy. Next slide. Our department buckets. This is kind of where, and it's still, and if I'm honest, this is always evolving. When I came on staff, ENP, our former ED, or former director already was like, hey, this is a new department, head on. You take and run with it, you develop it as we go. And so, which is really good, start from scratch. ENP had a version of neighborhood department in the past, development. And it was more parent engagement, block parties, and really we're starting to build this out and scale it out to make it more manageable and more sustainable in our approaches. And we've learned a great deal along the way here. So our department buckets are neighborhood associations. Basically, this is where we spend a lot of our energy to build a capacity in our community. So think about a geography or a community, and you have a steering committee or an association of about 10 or 12 or so residents who then form an association, who then who take ownership of the priorities, issues to advocate for. So these are infrastructures that we're building in these pockets of community. So association work is really one of our key buckets. Community projects are kind of like, sometimes based off the associations requests or their priorities, right? For example, let me give you an example. If a neighbor association in Vane Powell says, man, one of our top priorities for our community is to really beautify our community. And then they develop their initiatives, they develop their projects, and ENP helps to come alongside of them and say, hey, that's wonderful. How can we come alongside of you and support you in that effort? And so ENP, we're blessed to have a great amount of tools, rule tools that you can use for projects, shovels, rakes, hula hose, if you're doing a beautification project. And we're happy to assist on other versions of it. Maybe it's a mural project. So community projects is really a kind of a complementary piece to the neighborhood work. And then civic infrastructures are one of our new buckets. I'll get into that a little bit later in the PowerPoint. Leadership development. You've seen the picture of all the beautiful women there graduating. This is where we spend a lot of our time in developing residents who aspire to be change makers. And we invest a lot of time, energy, money, and resources to help develop them out to be great leaders. They're already great leaders as they are now, but we give them some other skill sets and tools so they can advance their causes. And advocacy is a lot of our work too as well. We champion a lot of different changes, stop signs, signal lights, different measures, different policies in a local area here in town. So we've been really anchored in that area too as well. Not as much as the social political climate. We're not really in that space of those political wins necessarily. We're more interested on the ground level, grassroots, where neighbors and residents are at and seeking to change there. So that's our form of advocacy. Our methods, and this is, to be honest, I could spend a lot of time on this, but I'm just going to give you a quick snapshot on why, right, and how. So asset-based community development, we call this ABCD. It's really just centered on this idea that says that communities that exist have strengths, right? Versus communities that are deficits, right? So, and we all know there's deficits in our community, in our neighborhoods. We all know there's blight. We all know there's issues with infrastructure, no sidewalks, poor roads, just poor systems in a community, poor health systems, poor food services, and so forth. ABCD says, well, yeah, that might be true, and that might be a fact, but we're also just as much interested to see what's lies here that are strengths. What are some indicators? Well, hey, there's residents here, there's homeowners here, there's renters who care about the community, there's folks here, there's stakeholders, folks who have lived, work, and play, who are committed to see the change. So that's a strength, right? Maybe there's land that's not been tapped. That's a physical space, right? So there's all different factors and building blocks for ABCD. But really, to be honest, all of it's just a lens, a new way of looking at communities. And that's pretty much our approach. It's an asset-based approach. We do nothing of our own. It's very solution-driven, very a community-driven process. So we really come in with that framework, and we engage our communities, our neighborhoods with that particular focus and anchor methodology. It's asset-based community development. Community organizing is another probably a technical of the ABCD approach, right? We're engaging, mobilizing residents. Our community organizing is a little different from other organizations who do this type of work. We really listen to the community. Not to say those don't, but I think that's kind of our different approach, right? We take a lot of our time to listen. That's a skill set, to listen well, to listen keenly, to listen for themes, to listen and be empathetic in this approach. And out of those listening sessions, whether they're community meetings, one-on-one conversations, after X amount have been done, then we develop a game plan, right? We then develop some causes for change, and then we engage and mobilize residents around those shared aspirations, shared concerns. That's really our anchor approach to community organizing. Our Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Pablo, some of you have probably read his wonderful work. It's an ancient textbook now. It's written in the 80s, probably in the 70s. And I can't get into too much of the theater of the act of all the techniques. But basically, it's a system of saying adults learn different ways, right? We're all visual. Some are visual learners. Some are learn through. Some are more internal processors, verbal processors. There's different learning styles in one room. There's no magic pill, right? And so the pedagogy of the oppressed says, well, there's a peripheral option for the oppressed, and what are some techniques and ways to hear them, right? And so when we engage our residents and our community members, we really try to be unique and innovative and organic as we can to facilitate conversations, right? Or meetings or spaces that we can all co-learn in this process. That's really our approach, one of our methods. Social capital, again, it's relationship driven, not transactional, right? We're committed to this work. So it's super important for us that we build and win the trust of community members, and we take that seriously, right? Social capital means that, hey, X amount of folks are responding to Hedman's approach, and I'm then building some inroads and building healthy relationships versus transactional. Hey, here's an example of transactional work in neighborhoods, unfortunately, that's happened historically here in Fresno. An organization will come to a neighborhood, and they might have an initiative, they might have an agenda, and some might be good on the surface level, right? But if it's a grant or if it's a policy change and they're gone, right? They're disappeared. They're not really anchored in those communities, neighborhoods. They can care less. They just want to really engage the community, engage them, mobilize for initiative, and they bounce. Versus ENP, we're committed. If we're going to commit to a neighborhood, we're trying our darnest to be have resourceful, and provide systems for them so they can feel like they're connected with us. So it's really relationship driven, and we've built so many relationships, which is good because in the COVID era, we have really leaned and tapped into that bank of trust. Data also helps us and it informs our work. And I'm sure you guys have probably seen a lot of the data sheets that Jess has probably shared with y'all from different neighborhoods, different geographies, and different school sites. The neighborhoods are based on the school sites. So data really informs our work. Not that it's the only method. It's definitely one approach that we use for our engagement. Collaborative also, again, it's not rocket science for us. It's collaborative approaches. It's the best way to build capacity, to seek wins, and to make it sustainable. So collaborative work, it's in our name, partnership, right? So very partnership driven versus working in silos, working as individuals or that rugged individualism. as an organization. If we say no, we celebrate the success, and it has to be done through a community-led approach. Next slide. Pre-COVID, the glory days. Remember those days before COVID? Those are wonderful days, right? We had a lot of freedom. You know, we took it for granted, right? And I'm sure I did. So before COVID, you know, before that was the pandemic that really hit our city hard, we were really active in community engagement. So you would imagine our work is really tailored toward the community and being in community with folks and being in proximity to people, right? It's hard for me not to do my job, but I'm not in those spaces. And so what COVID did, it was put a wet blanket on all our efforts, kill the momentum. So it was really a challenging time for our department. But before COVID, we were doing a lot of phenomenal work. We helped create 12 neighborhood associations in 12 different neighborhoods. And this is just a glance of 2019. We had 90 neighborhood meetings. So again, think about, you know, COVID wasn't a thing, right? We were constantly meeting, convening with community members and other folks to seek change. We had 40 community-led service projects, 250 volunteers. So we're really active, right? We're really active, engaged. Workshops, we did 12 workshops, 3 resident training cohorts, and stipend 3 residents. So that's just in 1 year. And that was really probably one of our greatest successions years that we have had, where that type of engagement and things worked really well. So COVID happened. So, you know, it happened, right? It became our new reality. So this was a challenging period for me, if I'm honest, to say, oh man, you know, the idea of social change theory, which is based on the ABCD approach, is really centered on building this connectivity, the social connectivity in our communities, right? Just because if there is a crisis, right, then folks have the interconnection, a network in neighborhoods that they can lean and depend on, right? That's what we're striving for. And to be honest, we haven't gotten there, right? And so when COVID happened, it really started to reveal the cracks, the gaps of our work. And I kind of thank God for that, right? Because it's going to really help us to be more informed, more engaged, to be a little more critical in our thinking and our approaches. But that's what happened, right? But in our response initially was just like everyone else. We didn't know what to expect of it, right? And so we were, because of the restrictions, we were limited to our approaches, right? But hey, we were still making some impact with our distributions, which is a new thing for us. Distribution has not been traditionally part of our department or ENP as a whole. If it was, we were a partner in that effort, but we didn't take the lead on that. So distributions has been a really a saving grace for us in our department. But you know, to be honest, it's been just as impactful for residents to be involved and to feel supported. So we had food and diaper distributions, and we're still doing them now until probably end of this year. So we have been committed to distributing all those resources to the communities. Financial assistance, this was a great turning point for us to say, how do we be creative with funding that we get? We had a fund a grant money to do some neighborhood work. We couldn't do neighborhood work. So what if we do financial assistance plans efforts? And so we had $30K to spend and to do some relief. And so we connected with some residents that we're engaged with and helped them in that time was really difficult for them. Virtual organizing, this is something that I was reluctant to get involved in. Janessa probably knows, like, I was really like, I don't want to do, I love being around people. And virtual organizing was a challenge thing for us, the Zoom and everything else, but we managed and we've done a pretty good, decent job of staying true to our ideals and our values, but it looks different, right? Because it's all on Zoom. But we've been really proactive in this and engagement with surveys and really trying to figure out how to listen to the community by doing virtual organizing and coaching local CBOs. Our local CBOs are community-based organizations, other nonprofits who are trying to aspire to do great things as well in their own neighborhoods and their own regions within Fresno. We've taken a step back and really equipped and trained them on their engagement, game plans and strategies to build their capacity as well. So that's been really a great thing for me as well to kind of see that develop. Here's a good example of the food distributions. A picture of just the resources, right? Just the basics, and this is a great blessing for folks. There you go. Food distributions. They're at some various school sites, and they're facilitated by volunteers from different parts of the community. And this is probably since that number was probably generated in March, I believe. That's the total amount of food that went out in a 1 year span. So that's a lot, right? That's a lot of food that goes out. Hey, we're the breadbasket of the world, right? We have a lot of resources, and we're happy to play that role and fill the gap. Next slide.
And I think some people on here help with those too. There's probably some folks
Yeah,
here who are there. Yeah.
yeah. If you help, appreciate it, and you know how hard it is sometimes being on the sun or in the rain, but also how gratifying it is to provide some relief. There's some numbers there. You can see how we've partnered with different partners and had some 25 food hubs. That's including Fresno Unified Food Distributions along with other food hubs. The bank reached out to us. The food bank reached out to us about diapers, and we got a whole lot of diapers, almost 17,000 diapers, and we were able to distribute those out. The great thing about this particular initiative, residents really took the lead in this. Again, tapping into our network, right? I mentioned earlier about the social connectivity. We tapped into their network of parents that they knew, and they got them out. And this happened in 1 week. This is amazing, right? Versus ENP holding a large mass distribution and come on. We said, no, let's be strategic, let's be intentional. We want to know that folks are getting this resource. So we tapped about 6 or so residents, and they distribute about X amount of cases. It's amazing. Next slide. The drive, and this is new. This was developing before COVID, but now this is where we're really spending a lot of time and energy. So I mentioned a little bit about the methods of being place-based. I alluded to it. I didn't say it out. I didn't call it out, but geography is really, when we think about geography, we think about the city, how ENP has broken that up into 92 neighborhoods. You have different regions: Southwest, Southeast, North, and Central. And ENP's Neighborhood Development Department is really focused on the South Fresno region area, Southeast, Southwest Fresno. The drive is a big initiative. There is the link there to check it out. I would encourage y'all to check that out. There's 18 initiatives. ENP is part of one of the initiatives. It's called Civic Infrastructure. This is really connecting with 6 of Fresno 32 extreme poverty neighborhoods. Again, going by the Cal Viral Screen 2.0 and different indicators to determine which are the disadvantaged communities that we want to see be connected to this effort. And so we chose 6, and I'll get into that a little bit. But this grant's really going to be trying to be robust and ambitious to engage about 800 residents in each neighborhood and train 1,000 residents. So think about what we're doing at ENP to really increase our capacity for neighborhood engagement. And you can see how much budget it is, right? There's an investment plan here, about almost close to $6 million that is going out to just this work, to fund the work in the Drive initiative in 6 neighborhoods. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it is a testament to all the great leaders in our city. But Fresno's one of its kind in California. You have Detroit, LA, Seattle, I think New York, or other cities who have done this type of work. So we're kind of a pilot in California, so which is awesome. So there's 6 neighborhood hubs, and Janessa, please stop me if I'm going too long. I'm almost done. So there's 6 neighborhood hubs. In ENP has 3, right? So Webster and King and Lincoln, for some reason they merged those, as well as Jackson Winchell, which is a large geography. But in a nutshell, those are 3 neighborhoods, right? 5 organizations have been awarded to oversee those three neighborhoods to be the driver. And again, the investment was some got $250, some got $500,000 to build capacity, to build salary, get staff, and do the work, which is amazing. Our role in the hubs is technical assistance, consulting, training, coaching, org development. So again, some of these hubs, these organizations who are been awarded have little or have in the middle area of their org development. So we're going to be coaching them to become a lean organization as a place-based organization. And our coaching, our training is really kind of our niche right now. That's kind of where our sweet spot. The secret sauce is in that space of really training and coaching org leaders to basically duplicate and be better than ENP. So that's really our aspiration. So that's our role.
Hey, you made it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Herman. It's exciting. I forget that that this isn't happening everywhere, that Fresno's special, that Fresno got that huge grant, and that just the organizing that's happening among different community benefit organizations and neighborhoods for the betterment of Fresno. So we're really on the cutting edge. It's exciting to see, what the next 5 years will hold.
Yeah, and I've said this before. All like the drive and what you're doing, Janessa. Like we're changing it. We're changing the narrative of what Fresno is about, right? Unfortunately, different cities look at Fresno as the armpit of California, right? Like, oh, why is it throwing shade at Fresno, right? And for all different reasons. And Fresno's always in the news for the wrong reasons. But there's so much stuff that's happening here that's so good, right? And so I think our work is part of that, just one part of that chain of events is to seek the wholesome and a flourishing city. But yeah, hey, if anybody has questions, if we have time, I'm here to answer.
Yeah, is there any way, like how as a college student, can you help be a part of, if you're a college student who's interested in like bettering the community and social work, and which I think most of these college students are, what would you how could they get involved, or what would you recommend they read or learn about in this time?
Yeah, I think my first recommendation is I'll send you a book. I'll get off early. Before I get off, I'll actually put in the chat box. I got to find the book title. But this is a book that we refer to a lot of different organizations and leaders to read. It's a great book. It's really it gives you the genesis of ABCD, how it started, but also like what's aspiration and how it works in community. What does that look like? So I think that's probably the foundational way to be engaged in this type of work, to kind of learn that particular nuance. And then I would say, because right now we're still not as available to be out into community, or else I'd have been, really and have an invitation for y'all to join us at workshops to kind of see how communities are shaping their plans, their visions, because all of this is really technical work too as well. I mean, we're involved in a lot of steering committees that are help shaping the dynamic of Fresno for the next 20, 30 years. So that's a really good space to be at, to kind of see the inner workings with city planners, organizational leaders, residents, and principals, and so forth, right? We're all part of this one collective effort to seek the change. But if not, hey, I would say read the book, and then when opportunities will arise for possibly internships, employments, or ways to get plugged in, I'll be happy to show those opportunities when they come about.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks, Herman. And I think no matter what field we all go into, I feel like being asset-based is important. I think even like with our kids, like going from a place of with residents or with kids, coming from a place of like, what is this kid good at, instead of what's wrong with this kid? Why can't they do this? Why can't this resident do this? Why don't they have all the answers? So I think we have a lot to learn from you in terms of all of whatever what field of work you go into, to try to remain asset-based.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thanks, Herman. And yeah, if you want to put that book in the chat, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone, any questions? Or I don't see anything in the chat. All right. Well, there's Herman's email too, so feel free to follow up. We're all open books. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks again.
Mm-hmm. Yep, my pleasure.
All right, y'all. We're going to try to do a Slido quiz. I have not done one of these before, so bear with me. But I believe I've done it as a participant, but never hosted one. So if you go to slido.com, or if you take a picture of this, I forgot what those are called at the moment, but if you take a picture of those on your phone, that will also pull it up. So if you want to grab your phone, go to Slido, or capture this up here. Good, and we got Avneet in there, so she already did it. So as soon as you put your name in, it'll pop your name up here. Thanks, Grace. A QR code. I was like, there's a name for it. I can't remember. All right. Thanks, Leslie, Rebecca. Perfect. And other Janessa. It always brings me joy to be two Janessas in the room. Doesn't happen a lot. Awesome. I'll give one more moment. I think there's just a couple more of you. All right. Let me throw it in the chat in case someone didn't quite get it. You're going to go to slido.com before I switch and pound number 911841. All right. Let's see. Okay. So I believe the questions are popping up for you, right? So what does every neighborhood partnership stand for? Is it popping up on your end for you to click it? Okay. And yay, y'all got that right. Great job. All right, next one. So at what grade level are students' reading scores most important as an indicator if they will do well in the rest of their education? So you probably learned this, well, I'm sure I said it at your first orientation. And also if you think about where you're focused in with literacy mentoring, that gives you a clue too. All right, a little bit all over the board. So we will check now. The correct answer is 3rd grade. And so remember, up until 3rd grade, kids are learning to read. And after 3rd grade, kids are reading to learn. And so that's just a fun mnemonic, maybe, I don't know, just a fun phrase to help you remember. But the idea is that kinder through 3rd grade, teachers are really focused on teaching kids how to read. And then 4th grade and up, they don't really focus much at all on how to read. And even honestly, some 4th grade and up teachers don't know like early phonics. They never really learned it because that's not their passion. Because it's pretty much assumed by 4th grade that you can read. So at that point, your teacher just gives you, here's your book to read, here's your history to read, here's your science to read. And if they can't read at a functional level, they just quickly fall behind. So that's why we work kinder through 2nd grade, a couple 3rd graders, but mostly kinder through 2nd grade, because we want to help get kids reading proficiently by the end of 3rd grade so they can do well in the rest of their education. Of course, all of these grades are important. So every year is important, but that is a year that they often look at as an indicator. All right, which of the following is not a sight word? So 3 of these are, and 1 is not, at least in terms of the sight words that we work with, which is from Wonders. Y'all have read those lists a lot, so hopefully 1 is looking less familiar. All right. Yeah, we've got some for does, some for take. The correct answer is take. And part of sometimes, so most sight words, they're chosen for 2 reasons. 1, either they don't follow the pattern. So like does, you can't sound it out. Does, you would go duh, ah, as, does. No, that's not does. Will, you can sound out, but it's just with the double L, it's not, you don't say w, ill, So the idea of sight words is it's words that kids can't sound out typically, or just high frequency, that they see them a lot. And so the word take is pretty high frequency, but you don't see it a ton. And also once kids learn the A blank E, the long A sound, then they can sound that word out pretty easily. Anyways, so now you know. All right, so Herman shared about this just now. What does ABCD stand for? Give me one more moment. All right, so Nice. Most of us got it. Great. It is asset-based community development. And so he talked quite a bit about that, of like, that's how they choose what projects they're going to work on, how they choose like what neighborhoods to focus in on, and like what to advocate for, because they really want it to be within the community and also from an asset-based approach. So like, what is this community doing well? What do they have a lot of? Oh, well, they have this woman who sells baked goods. Like, let's build off of her bakery and make that a community organizing place where we can bring people in and allow her to like become a leader within the community. So just going from strengths. All right. This is just a random guess. You probably wouldn't know this number, but how many students do you think that all of you, all of the literacy mentors together at ENP worked with online this past semester? So individual kids that met with a literacy mentor at least once a week. Most of you twice a week. And I don't think I ever shared it. So take your best guess. All right, so we're kind of all over the place. You ready? Drum roll, please. So the answer is the top one, 265, which is pretty amazing. So like, kudos to all of you. That's a lot of kids getting support. Yeah, we just had to, and the reason I knew this number is we just had to create a report for the Fresno Unified Mentoring Office. He wanted a list of all the kids we work with. And I was like, oh boy, it's gonna take a while. And it was neat to put it together and think about like each of those kids is like a little life that was affected by one of you, and got to have someone that met with them twice a week who really cares about them, who wants to see them succeed. So of course, 265 out of 70,000 kids at Fresno Unified is not that big. But when you think about 265 little lives that you all touched, it's very exciting. So kudos to you. And so where did college students not work this semester with ENP? This one's a little tricky. But so learning hubs at churches and businesses, Saturday sports, food distributions, and virtual after school programs. So where did ENP not have any college students helping at? Hey, great job. Yeah, so, well, I guess I should show you the right answer. Yes, it is Saturday sports. So we didn't have Saturday sports at all this year, so no one was helping at it. It was obviously the schools were on not lockdown, but closed from any community partners using them. So we didn't have Saturday sports, but this means we had college students helping at our learning hubs. So those were at churches and businesses where they opened up their campus and kids came and did their virtual school day there. At food distributions, you all helped, and at virtual after school programs. And those were mostly through the housing authority sites that they did a fun like 2-hour engaging via Zoom. So that's a lot of work you all have done. So thank you. And then finally, last question. So who said this quote? Once you learn to read, you will be forever free. Again, I haven't shared that with you, but take your best guess, or you might have heard it somewhere else. All right, pretty close there. Yep, correct. So that was Frederick Douglass, a abolitionist in the 1800s, former slave who I believe maybe taught himself to read. I should remember this, but just the power of literacy, and that was something that has been kept from a lot of people over many generations, and even to this day, people around the world who don't know how to read, and how that really keeps you from being able to advocate for yourself, better your family. And so it's just so important. The work that you all do is helping kids be good readers so that they can meet that 3rd grade mark and then go on to succeed in school and afterwards. So let's see. Oh, we have some tied winners, 5 out of 7. So Avneet and Grace and Janessa and Hazel all got 5 out of 7. Woo! Great job. All right. I hope that was fun. I had invited, I don't think he made it. Okay. We actually have quite a few Read Fresno students on here. So after I'm done sharing for a moment, if any Read Fresno students would like to share, I would love that, just to like give a quick overview of how it's been for you, to share with the others on here. So one part of our engagement is we have Read Fresno mentors through Fresno State. And basically, if you get work study funds through your like financial aid allotment, you can choose, I believe, and apply for where you'd like to work, who you'd like to work for with those work study funds. And Read Fresno under ENP is one of those spots you can work through. And so we are hiring soon. It'll be for next school year. This website, which I will try, I'll send it in an email afterwards, or I'll try to put it in the chat. But this website is where you would go, and it explains all about Read Fresno mentors. They're raising the pay rate to $15 an hour. You, as a part of the class, the job, you also typically enroll in a class that happens on Thursday evenings from 6 to 7:50. Yeah, and you'd be doing a lot of the Read Fresno mentors work at those after school programs that we talked about. So our goal next school year is to have Read Fresno mentors both on campus during the school day working with kids, and then in a neighborhood after school center, and then meet with the other, like within a neighborhood context. So we'll have like little teams in different neighborhoods so that they can get to know kids both during the day and then also after school. Yeah, so that's a little bit about that. And if you go to that website, there's an interest form you can fill out. And then Erica Castanon, who's still on maternity leave, but she'll be back soon. She's the direct coordinator for this program. So she'd be the one who'd reach out to you and would talk to you about an interview process and all of that. But that's it in a nutshell. Would anyone, any Read Fresno mentors on here like to share what it's been like for you? Or anything about the application process, if you have any tips on like what makes it easier or any of that.
So we've been like tutoring online, and I would say, because I think most people are going to do in person next semester, right?
Yeah, that would be the goal. Mm-hmm.
So I would say it's probably going to be a lot easier in person than it was online, but it was still a really great experience, and it's not too difficult, but like for going into it, you're going to be really nervous, because I was really nervous, but you get the hang of it. And building connections with kids is like, I feel like you have to spend a little bit of time getting to know them, because then they're going to have more like, they're going to feel more motivated to work with you and like read if they know that you care for them and know that you're like building that connection with them. But yeah, it's a really great program. I had a lot of fun this semester. So if anyone's planning on joining, I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
Awesome. Thank you, Grace. Appreciate you sharing. Yeah. And so part of like what Grace, a lot of the Read Fresno mentors this semester have been doing a lot of what the literacy mentors do. So so still meeting online with kids one-on-one. But next semester, the goal would be a lot more on campus, on school sites, and then after school programs in person. Any questions or any other thoughts from any other mentors or questions from people who aren't Read Fresno? All right. Well, I will send that link in the email. And again, if you're eligible for work study, please consider applying with us and using that money to help kids and help your education. So it's a win-win. And then the other job opening, we are hiring someone to help me, basically. So if you want to work with me and Erica, so we're doing something new. We've never done this before, but we're hiring like in partnership with AmeriCorps. And so the benefit of that for you all, or whoever, applies and gets the job, is that you're getting like kind of like double on your resume. Like you're working with both ENP and also with AmeriCorps. So you'd be learning, I think as a part of the job, you'd be working with Jerry Salas And I think you do it like once a week meeting with him and the other AmeriCorps members. I'm not entirely sure, but pretty much like 35 hours a week with us and like 5 hours a week with them. And they're teaching you like volunteer management, community engagement, and then you're using all those things that you learned from them and from your past to help us. And so you'd work mostly with me and also a little with Erica to help do like all of our volunteers that come in, like to help get them fingerprinted, get them processed, get them signed up for an orientation, maybe perhaps lead some orientations, meet, like check in with mentors, check in with kids, check in with teachers. If we're back in person, you probably get to drive a little bit. So go to different schools and help as mentors start off on their first day. And then, yeah, just basically help in whatever way you can. So that is that. And like I said, we'll eventually going to put this on like social media and share it out more widely. But I wanted to share it with you all first because you all have experience. You've done this for a year, so you know what literacy mentoring looks like. You perhaps have ideas on like, this is how we can make it better, or I would maybe do this, and let's try this together. And so I think a lot of you on here, it'd be great to work with you. So wanted to share that. This would be ideally, I think they do, I want to say you just have to be 18 and up. So I believe they do allow you to be hired if you're not a graduate yet. But it is asking for a full-time commitment. So it would have to be, if you are still a student, you'd have to be able to commit to like working full-time and full-time school, or, however you want to do your schooling. So keep that in mind. So I will email out, there's 2 different job descriptions. So there's an AmeriCorps job description that describes it like from their end, what August to September, goes June to July. And it goes through like what you would do with them and like what their goal behind it. So that's what some of here is. And then also do know, like, even if you don't want to work with us, but you want to know more about the VIP, the different other people here in Fresno, like the food bank, Central California Food Bank, the Boys and Girls Club. There's several other, I think Neighborhood Thrift. There's some other nonprofits that have hired people through this. So even if you get into the application process and you're like, oh, that job actually sounds really cool, I'd rather, can I interview for that job instead, or in addition to, Jerry would still be your main contact there too. So it's another way. So we're hiring, but other people are hiring through AmeriCorps as well. And like I said, I'll send you on the email, I'll email both. So this is the job description part of it from our end. So 2 different job descriptions, describes what you're doing with them a little bit, and then what you would do with us. Any questions about all that?
You had mentioned that it's going to be a time commitment, so you guys are kind of looking for someone who isn't a student, but not necessarily. Is there any other requirements that you guys are looking at?
No, I mean, I think, yeah. So bilingual Spanish is a plus, being that like I don't speak Spanish and Erica doesn't speak Spanish. We have had, especially this year, working with families, more situations where we're like, we can't call them, we need help. So I think that's another like plus, but obviously not requirement. I think personally, just organization, like someone who, if you had experience in your past or with school, or just ways to show that like good organizational systems, like staying on track of when there's like 150 volunteers, like trying to keep track of who's with who and when and where. So being someone who's very organized. Yeah, and I think experience with kids too, so is always a plus, which you all have. So I think speak to that too, because we are always trying to learn and grow. So I think if someone comes in and has some new ideas, I'm not opposed to being like, yeah, that's a good idea, let's try it. And so I like that part of it too. Good question though. And you'll see on their website, there's like a stipend that comes through them, but then also at the end of it, after you finish the year, so it's a year-long commitment, after you finish there, you also get an additional like 7,000 or something that goes towards education. So you could use it, I maybe to pay off loans. I'm assuming, because that's education. So probably to pay off loans, or if you decided like, oh, at this point, after this, kind of like a gap year, like I finished my undergrad, maybe I'm gonna do this for a year, and then you decide, oh, I want to go to grad school. You could then use that stipend to go towards grad school. All right. Any other questions about that or about Reed Fresno, either of those spots?
Would this position, I know that you mentioned, the stipend, but would it also be a paid position?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you get paid, you don't get paid like a ton. It's not, but you get paid through AmeriCorps. If you look on their website, I believe it's like $1,500 a month. So again, not like world's best salary, but you are getting paid. And then you, at the end of the year, you get that additional like 7 to 10 grand. It was somewhere in there of the stipend. So some money throughout and then money at the end too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But again, I think the neat part about it is it's a good resume build, because you get to, you get both us and AmeriCorps on your resume as for like future grad school or future other employment within nonprofits or schools or anything within helping people jobs. So, all right. And then a few other volunteer opportunities that are still going on and probably will go on this summer too. Well, some of them. So Martin Park is a nonprofit in the Lowell community, which is downtown. And they really need help leading crafts. So they've reached out a few times. They're like, we need somebody. So if you're free on Tuesday or Thursday afternoons, they have an after school program that meets in person, and they're looking for someone who can come kind of lead some crafts. And then also they're soon opening a second site, I think next semester at Webster. So obviously you never know, but I think they will be hiring eventually for that site. So I could see if you went and made a good case for yourself, who knows about the future, that maybe you could help at the next site. So I think it's just a great opportunity, and getting to work with kids and another good resume builder and just important work. So, and then one more, oh yes, Grace, I see your hand.
Oh, for the arts and crafts things, do you know what time it is?
Yeah, it's like 3 to 6, but I don't think the whole time. I think like you could do part of it. You could do, I think she said like 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 or 5 to 6. You don't have to stay the whole 3 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And if you get started, Grace, well, I know if you get started soon and you're still wanting some Reed Fresno funding, you can count those hours towards Reed Fresno as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. And then I know you all have heard about our hubs where at different churches where folks are helping with kids while they're doing their online learning. On-Ramps hub, especially like 2 weeks ago, reached out and they're like, we might have to close. We're just out of volunteers and we're really tired and we need more help. And so she since then has decided we're going to stay open, but I think they could still use some more help. So that will only go through the end of the school year. So kids end June 11th. I don't think they're going to keep on after that, but I do know they really need help. So if you are available, you can email me and I'll connect you with the pastor there. And while we're on jobs, I know that they're also hiring a children's ministry director, or they were last I saw. So again, another good spot where you could get some experience and potentially meet people for future work or future connections. Another one you all should be well aware of, but there's still food distributions going on this month. They are now later, so they begin at 4:30, so you'd arrive at 4, except for King is a little bit earlier. Those are still on our Serve Fresno website. So if you need some last minute hours for your class or for anything, did I freeze? Am I still there?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Okay, thank you. You all froze and I was like, oh no, maybe I'm talking to nobody. All right. Yeah, so if you need some last minute a couple of hours, feel free to sign up for any of those. And those are all just one time. You can go to one, you don't have to go to the next one. You just sign up for which ones you can. And those are all on our Serve Fresno website. So servefresno.org, that's where you'll sign up. And you'll also notice Serve Fresno has lots of other opportunities. Like you'll notice Martin Park is on there. It's just another way that we help other organizations get the word out about needing volunteers. So this year and in the future, if you ever know someone who needs a volunteer job, you can always, or volunteer work, always feel free to send them to Serve Fresno and they can find different opportunities there. And look, here's Ashley. My coworker made this image and I was like, pull one out of the folder and you're it. Here you are. So I will send an email with more details, but the end of the month, Thursday, May 20th, we wanted to have a celebration with all of the literacy mentors from this year, or whoever can make it, literacy mentors, Read Fresno mentors. And we're going to do it in person. So both in person and via Zoom. So it'll be at the Well Community Church, the location up north. So it's the corner of Maple and Knees. Unfortunately, it will be inside. They don't really have an outdoor space. So anyways, either way, if you feel comfortable coming in person, you're welcome to. There will be Chick-fil-A. If you don't feel comfortable coming in person, you can always come pick up the Chick-fil-A and take it home and eat it while you watch on Zoom. So I'll send that link out, but love for you to join. And that will be not just like, we work with a lot of Fresno State students in Fresno City, like you all are on here, but we also work with different churches. And so you'll see some mentors there who are in their 70s, it's a big range. So there's folks from different churches and not just from Fresno State. So that'll be, all of the volunteers are welcome. I wanted to say congratulations, class. Oh, we're 5 minutes over. I'm almost done. Sorry. All right. Congratulations, class of 2021. And we wanted to celebrate you. So if you are graduating this year, will you please email me so I can get you on the list and we're going to do something. So it'll be a surprise, but let me know if you're a graduate because we need you on the list. So email me about that. And I think this is my last slide. Last reminder is that the kids are in school until June 11th. So that's their last day. So if you're at learning hubs, ideally you can stay at those till June 11th. They'll be going until then. The virtual literacy mentoring, we're saying our official end date is June 4th, because you all know the last week of school, no one's really learned anything. So you all can stop June 4th. But I know some of you have communicated about different reasons why you need to end sooner. So if you're going to end sooner, please email me, so whatever date that is, and let the families know. Also, some people have just made great connections with kids and they're like, can I still hang out with them this summer? Can we still meet on Tutorfly? Can we still meet on Teams? Yes. So you are welcome to keep that relationship going into the summer and beyond, whether that happens on Tutorfly or on Teams. You can stay in connection and they could use the help over the summer if you're up to it. And then just don't forget, don't just disappear. So don't just okay, bye, see you next week. And then just never hear from you again, or try to do something on your last day of wow, remember we were on this list at the beginning and look at where you're at now. And I'm so proud of you, and something to just make them feel celebrated and we're done meeting together, but I'm still I'll think about you and I'm proud of you and I hope you have a good summer, just don't just disappear. So end well with them. And that is it. Any questions or thoughts on any of that? All right. Well, thank you for staying. Man, I am not usually this late. 5:07. What'd I do? All right. Well, thank you, ladies. I hope you have a good rest of your Monday. And also, you can count today towards your hours. So put today's hours on your hours too. And yeah, we'll be in touch. Appreciate you all.
Thank you.